All right, let's talk about the US-China strategic competition. Now, if you think this is just about trade disputes, think again. We are looking at a massive high-stakes rivalry. It's playing out on a global chessboard, across battlefields you can see, and maybe more importantly, a lot of battlefields you can't. We're talking military strategy, the race for technology, and a battle for the future of money itself. And the craziest part? It's all happening right now.
So it really forces us to ask this central question, the one that frames everything else. Are we just seeing the opening moves to some future conflict? Or is a new kind of war, one that's quieter, less visible, but every bit as consequential, already being fought?
To get our heads around this, we're going to break it down and look at a few key fronts. First, that military flashpoint everyone is watching, Taiwan. Then, we'll dive into the invisible war for tech supremacy. After that, you know it, we're going to follow the money and look at the challenge to the US dollar. And finally, we'll zoom out and try to figure out what this all means for the global order as we know it.
Okay, first up, the military front. And all eyes are on Taiwan. But here's the thing, this isn't just about counting ships and missiles. To really understand the threat, you have to get inside a military doctrine that is built on one absolutely critical principle: deception. It's about winning the fight before it even begins by catching your enemy completely, totally off guard.
And this quote, wow, it gets right to the heart of the PLA's entire strategy. Deception isn't just a clever trick for them. They see it as a force multiplier, a war-winning weapon. This idea of excelling at stratagem is absolutely fundamental to their thinking. See, the goal isn't just to outfight an opponent, it's to outthink them, to win through sheer, shocking surprise. So how does an ancient idea like that play out in the 21st century? Well, Chinese military planners are thinking way outside the box, with tools that completely blur the lines between civilian life and military action. Just imagine this: ordinary-looking container ships that are secretly packed with missiles, or swarms of unmanned amphibious vehicles and robots hitting a beach. The entire goal is to create maximum chaos and confusion, making it almost impossible to even know you're under attack until it's far too late.
And you might think, well, that's just theory. But it's not. The PLA constantly studies its own history as a playbook. A surprise amphibious assault back in 1955 on the Yijiangshan Islands? That's not just some dusty historical footnote for them. It's a living case study, a blueprint that they believe proves a perfectly executed surprise attack can overwhelm even a well-prepared defender.
You know, that focus on a surprise military edge leads us straight to our second front, a battlefield that's way less visible but every bit as intense: the race for technological dominance. This is a war being fought in labs, in server farms, and all across our global supply chains.
And to really get the motivation here, you have to understand this term, techno-nationalism. For China, this is basically a national survival strategy. The goal is total self-sufficiency in what they call choke point technologies. Think of things like the most advanced computer chips, where they currently depend on the West. This isn't just about building a better economy. It's a security strategy to make sure that in a crisis, no foreign power can ever cripple them by cutting them off.
And man, this has become a real neck-and-neck race. The US definitely still leads in designing the most powerful chips. We're talking NVIDIA, AMD, and creating those game-changing AI models like GPT-4. But China has leaped way ahead in crucial manufacturing areas. They absolutely dominate the global battery and EV supply chains, with giants like CATL and BYD, and they're pouring everything into building their own independent AI ecosystem from the ground up.
And China is putting its money where its mouth is. $47 billion. And get this, that's not the total investment. That's just the size of its latest government fund to try and break that semiconductor choke point. This is a full-blown national mission, with the entire weight of the state focused on achieving this one single goal.
And this deep, deep economic connection creates all these new, really tricky strategic vulnerabilities. For instance, Chinese-made batteries are right now being installed directly into the US power grid. There's a single biotech firm with alleged military ties that's involved in developing about a quarter of America's drugs, and every single connected vehicle on the road becomes a potential vacuum for massive data collection. The battlefield is no longer just over there. It's already inside our most critical infrastructure.
So, from military and tech, we pivot to the abstract, but incredibly powerful world of finance. And here, the competition is a direct challenge to one of America's greatest sources of global power, the dominance of the US dollar.
This fight is all about something with a very fancy name: exorbitant privilege.
It's basically the massive, one-of-a-kind advantage the US gets because the dollar is the world's default currency. It means America can borrow money more cheaply and wield enormous influence over the entire global financial system. And that privilege is what's now being challenged.
You can actually see this challenge playing out right here on this chart. Just follow that red line. That's the Chinese renminbi. Its slice of the global trade finance pie has just skyrocketed, more than doubling since early 2022 and even blowing past the euro for a time. This isn't an accident. It's the result of a deliberate strategy by China to convince its trading partners, like Russia, to do business in its currency instead of the dollar.
And you know what? This strategy is working, especially in its own neighborhood. Just look at this. By 2021, China was already settling nearly half of its own cross-border payments in the renminbi. That is a huge step toward carving out a financial sphere of influence where, frankly, the dollar just isn't needed. But, and this is a really big but, we have to keep all this in perspective. While the renminbi is making real gains in trade, its role in the total global payment system, the SWIFT network that handles most international transactions, is still pretty tiny. It's hovering around 4.5%. The dollar? It's sitting at 47%. It is still the undisputed king of the hill, and its foundations run incredibly deep.
Okay, so let's step back for a second and look at the whole chessboard. We've seen the moves on the military front, the tech front, and the financial front. What does it all mean when all these pieces are moving at the exact same time?
Well, it brings us to a pretty clear-eyed conclusion, especially on the money side of things. This quote really sums it up. A multipolar international monetary system is not here yet. The shift away from the dollar, it's real, it's happening, but it looks like it's going to be a gradual, slow, and partial process. It is not some overnight collapse.
So what are the big takeaways from all this? First, on the military front, the name of the game is deception and surprise. In technology, it's a flat-out race for self-sufficiency that, kind of ironically, is creating these deep connections and brand new security risks for everybody. And in finance, yeah, the renminbi is building its own regional fortress, but the dollar's global kingdom remains secure for now.
And that leaves us with one final, and frankly, massive question. As this competition heats up across all these different areas at once, our old ideas about global stability just don't seem to fit anymore. In a world that is clearly becoming multipolar, with more than one center of power, what does a stable future even look like? Figuring that out is maybe the greatest challenge of our time.